Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of our Outlook 2023 series for MacroMentors. I'm here with Konstantin, who's very much into Web3, is now a fellow at Tsinghua University, obviously the best university in the world. So Konstantin, for all people that, don't know you yet, do you want to quickly introduce yourself?
Hello, everyone, also from my side. Thanks, Armin, for having me today. I have a great pleasure talking with you. And starting a little bit about myself, I'm currently studying in China, but I'm originally coming from Russia. I lived and studied in Russia for good 20 years of my life first, then moved to Germany to do my master's degree, then moved to China and studied in many different places beforehand. Maybe diving a little bit deeper on my experience, I'm coming from a civil engineering background. I have done civil engineering bachelor's back in Russia in a small town called Yekaterinburg, and then moved to Germany to do a master's degree also in civil engineering. Even though it looks like I have quite a traditional career path following one after another the same focus, my focus in Germany was quite a different and unique one. I had more of a software development and research than civil engineering itself. And during my time in Germany, I also was able to do a lot of activities on software development, on startups, on different projects that are going beyond extracurricular, or even founding a startup, which I did in 2021. So a lot of exciting experiences, and I'm more than happy to share it with you today, Armin.
And you won the Hyperloop competition. You should mention that. The Elon Musk one.
Yeah. There are many, many different activities which I participated in. One of them was exactly Hyperloop competition. There was competition by NASA and Elon Musk, which was building a Hyperloop system for over a year with a team from TUM, from Technical University of Munich. We were building a machine which can run the fastest at a track at NASA. And just building a machine like that also requires a lot of research, a lot of energy from students. And we had a team of 50 people who were working for 1 year to build a machine which ran the fastest. Luckily for us, we also won the competition. There was a tremendous amount of energy and research put into that. But studying in Germany really gives you this opportunity to focus on something you're really passionate about and build the systems or explore yourself just beyond the studies. Get an extracurricular experience, get a hands-on experience on projects which you'll never touch otherwise. And I think compared to many other universities around the world, here you're really getting a dedication towards something you're really passionate about. And for me at that time, that was building systems that are not existing yet, but will be very handy, useful going forward in our future life.
And Konstantin, obviously, so in other words, you did quite a lot of things, quite a lot of interesting things. You succeeded on many fronts. So when you, take us a little bit back, right? How does someone make the decision? How did you make the decision to, explore, studying abroad, going now to China? How do all of these decisions kind of come about? Where does the interest or the curiosity come from?
Oh, yeah, that's a very good question. Thank you, Armin, for that. I think for me, the biggest driver to explore different trajectories, different experience was exactly getting an international experience in the first place. When I did my bachelor's in the first place in Russia, I already did multiple exchanges to China and to Czech Republic to study abroad, to explore different universities, to explore different countries, nationalities, and how they approach the same problems from their perspective. Once I finished my bachelor degree, it was also a very clear path for me to just go and actually did an education abroad. And I had a range of experiences already, and I wanted to broaden it by something different. So I applied to a German university, to university in Netherlands, and final choice was to actually do a civil engineering, but from a different perspective of really learning from a new culture, from a new country. And that's where it was very fruitful experience, understanding that there are different approaches to education system, there are different approaches to culture, to living, to student life. And also student life was completely different in Germany. While in Russia, you were usually supported by government, and there is a lot of scholarships which you can do. In Germany, you essentially started to work straightforward in parallel with the university. And that's what was a huge unlock for me. I had so many exciting experiences during my studies that would never be possible in Russia, or I guess in any other country around the world. And tapping a little bit deeper into the experiences during studies, I think that was the cherry on top of my education. From being a research assistant to Bavarian government, we were doing a fascinating research on sustainability for early construction phases. That's where I learned all my software skills, and that's where I had the practical experience of applying or merging, in a sense, research to the practical problems and software engineering to the research, and how to all these fascinating things applies to the civil engineering industry, which is at the moment the slowest growing industry in the world. So all this range of experience were possible during me studying, and that was like a huge unlock, and getting this practical experience also propelled me going forward. And just to highlight a few other experiences, after being a researcher for multiple years, I then was a founding team member of AI in construction startup. And that was a very smooth transition from me learning as a research assistant towards me applying this and founding a company with very talented individuals who were passionate about something beyond just studying or beyond just learning. And that's where, again, education allows you to study or work in parallel. And we were building an AI solution which navigates the construction sites and allows to extract knowledge through the security cameras which are available on construction site already. And that was quite a successful startup. We raised seed rounds within a year. And afterwards, I decided that I want to move something somewhere else. And for me, the peak was the Web3 space. And that was a very right peak. Getting more experiences, getting exciting opportunities, getting to know people which are actually willing to change something around the world was essentially my drive going through all these opportunities.
Before we dive deeper into everything Web3, and like before we started the recording, you already told me that you see a lot of interesting trends happening in the space. If you think back, are there any particular lessons that you learned that you would give your younger self? Obviously, you did a lot. You went to the world-class universities. You were, working in world-class startups on everything more on the technology side, getting really to the frontier at an international level. So, any kind of lessons learned where you think like, wow, this would have really benefited me 5 or 10 years ago. But I just got the wisdom now.
That's a very fruitful thing to think about. And for me, the answer would be, or my advice to myself 5 or 10 years ago would be to participate in as many competitions as possible, participate in as many extracurriculars as possible, and just get the most out of the effort that companies put into students. So from all my experiences in education in different countries, I always see that on one side, you have a little bit more spare time than you have when you are just full-time working on some projects. And at the same time, you have this flexibility of applying or going in many different directions versus, again, when you are already dedicated to a full-time work. And this time while you are studying bachelor's, master's, high school even, is a really great time to invest and expand your skills in directions that are not always aligning with your education trajectory. So that at the end of studies, you are not only getting, oh, I have a diploma, I can probably work in the field I received my diploma, but more, I have a broad range of experiences, and it could be anything. It could be like technical competitions. I'm very fascinated by the Web3 blockchain competitions, but you can also do engineering competitions like Hyperloop. There is many, many things happening at any point in time around the world. You can send a satellite to space. There is a competition for that. Or you can go for debates, and there is a huge unlock for, as soon as you are getting more than just the studies, it really opens, first of all, the doors to you as like, oh, you can do this direction, but it doesn't limit you only to the degree that you are getting. And that's where degree is only like the very, very first step. But while you're a student, you have the ability to unlock many, many more doors than you as a professional can. Because while you're a student, people are excited to talk to you. People say, yeah, come to us. We want to welcome you. We want to share your experiences with you. We want to share maybe opportunities, studies, extracurricular courses. Just come and learn. And that's where you take the most. The more you learn in many different directions, the better you prepare yourself for the future, the better, and the variety of experiences is always more preferred. If I was only a civil engineer and I only practiced in construction industry, then it would be very hard for me to switch the career going forward. But since I was a competitive programmer for a while, I had experience traveling abroad, studying on exchange programs. It was very easy and natural for me to transition from one industry to another. And then within these transitions, also be able to contribute to research projects or startups in a way that my experience from different perspective is more valuable than a person who comes from the industry directly. That's what I also see right now, especially in Web3 space. Not only just software developers or just people who are very, very passionate about programming I needed there. What more I see more and more and more is that the collaboration between different industry is what really advances the technology. Either it's research and science and tech, medtech, science, all the things coming together give an opportunity for really greater projects than just people from software department coming together and trying to optimize some very niche problem that they're facing. And that's the variety of experiences I think is the greatest opportunity for everyone to take going forward.
Yeah, there's something to context, right? So if you're engaging many things, then you have more context, which probably makes you like a better decision maker and gives you a lot of perspective for sure. So, just because you just touched it, and you are, someone that is very passionate about everything in the Web3 space, like, first of all, why don't you just, explain what do you mean by Web3? I think that's like there's always a lot of debate about that. And then maybe a little bit what you see for 2023, what excites you right now, and maybe any kind of like particular trend where you see, wow, look at this is going to be big.
Gotcha. Yeah, maybe to give a little bit of a background. So for the last 1 year, I was working in Web3 space myself. I was working for a company called Protocol Labs, and we were developing solutions for decentralized data storage. And for me, and the way, at least let's define the Web3 space for our listeners right now, Web3 is essentially a next version or next iteration of Web2. Web2 was read and write, so you can read on something online and you can write there, so interact with it. Web3 provides you a new dimension of a Web2 space where you can read, you can write, and you can trust. And trust here is an operative thing which allows you to work with systems without particular knowledge about it, but still you can trust it in a distributed and decentralized system, enabling you to build systems without a source of trust in the middle. Essentially, what does that mean is that you can eliminate many intermediaries from large and complex systems. And instead of building centralized solutions, like, for example, Google Cloud or Amazon AWS services provide you for storing systems that you have to trust Amazon or Google. Instead of doing that, Web3 essentially provides you opportunity to build a trustless system where you eliminate the intermediary and you can store directly on someone else's computer the data you are interested in storing, and people on the other side will get benefits from you storing the content on their side. And that all can happen automatically with a trustless system provided by Web3 blockchain and underlying technologies.
So it's really ownership that makes the big difference, right?
For sure. And that's what really, really excites me as one of the trends in 2023. There are many things which happen in Web3 right now. And honestly, I would encourage everyone to check it out. Not even like diving deeper into it, but understanding what technology can unlock and what are the opportunities there lying for you. Maybe you're excited about math problems or communication systems or even finance and research on sustainable topics. These all things are now being developed and unlocked by blockchain technologies as well. And for me personally, I'm from just excited as an individual about Web3, for me, the hugest unlock or the hugest trend, which essentially 2023 brings to us, is a large focus on decentralized systems. With the recent failures of FTX, many other scams happening in blockchain industry recently, I think what really showed the biggest and strongest power is the decentralized and distributed systems. Decentralized finance, for example, was really independent or wasn't really affected by all the problems that FTX created for the blockchain industry. And that what really fascinates me. As soon as you eliminate this central point of failure, of system that is governed by some people, not always with the best intent for its users, if you can eliminate that problem and essentially build a trustless system which operates by itself as a code, and anyone in the world can check how code operates, it's open and distributed, and if you trust that, then you essentially are capable of building new solutions and new systems without intermediary which can stop you from achieving your greatest potential. And that unlocks many, many different things, from decentralized finance, from regenerative finance. You can even tap into things which are initially not so connected to blockchain as one can imagine, something like funding the public goods. For example, typically in the common world, if you were to find public goods, probably it's a crowdsourcing platform, people just sending the money to a certain goal, and then you hope or you trust that company on the other side or an NGO on the other side will fulfill all the criteria which they mentioned they're searching money for. And this already creates a trust problem where you have to trust someone else on the other side of the internet that they will fulfill and use your money to the best intent. But what instead you can do with decentralized finance or blockchain is essentially unlock the money based on the goals which people set for themselves. And you will need not to trust the system as a whole, but people will get unlock of the funds for doing their amazing projects only based on the performance and not based on trust. And that's what really blows my mind. There's many, many things where we can really eliminate the intermediary and make the system better and more efficient and hopefully applicable for the whole society and not only just for a small portion of people. That's what really highlights for me the Web3 space and the whole Web3 movement, if I were to say so.
And obviously, like there's this massive backlash. I guess like one is because liquidity really dried up, so that you had risk capital is not doing that well. So the prices, obviously, we are in this bear market, and now with this SBF, FTX. As it looks, there was a lot of, scamming involved. So now a lot of people mess it up. I think, okay, DeFi is the same like CeFi, and, they are really confused. So I guess we are really at a little bit, it seems at least, that like the sentiment right now is not that positive, right? I would say, right? I think we can say that. So, for making pretty much everything that you just said, and seeing the benefits of the technology, of the ways, we probably need like some sort of kind of adoption going forward that's like broader than the insiders that are already in crypto, right? Like I was always like very kind of fascinated by this play to earn idea. But like, what do you see like some potential, a potential trend where you see like some sort of mass adoption happening anytime soon, or where you think, wow, the use case is so strong here, the technology is easy to use, maybe it's, that could be the thing.
Yeah, totally. And I definitely understand where you're coming from, especially from the outside perspective. It may now feel, oh, the whole blockchain industry is just a scam, a Ponzi scheme, and there is nothing to look there inside for. I think, to be honest, once you dive a little bit deeper into the topic, it really highlights that most of the failures that happened in blockchain industry so far was actually caused by the centralized governance. There are many examples where certain individuals were not trustful enough, and they were stealing the funds, and they were exploiting the resources or funds from other users. And that's where, if you have a decentralized system instead, and ideally the open source code, which anyone can check and everyone can see if it's operating in the interest of people or not. That's where it really unlocks this. I don't need to trust the people online. I just need to look into the system. And if it's trustworthy without a human in between, then I can trust it completely without any problems. And that's where many use cases come for me. Again, public goods is a very large trend right now in the Web3 space. There is a lot to see to come on solving problems for public goods from the blockchain industry. And I think that would be the biggest connection to the real world in 2023. For example, we have one of the most interesting use cases on both regenerative finance and then on public goods finance is that blockchain is essentially capable of creating new mechanisms to fund public goods. Not only just saying, okay, there is a new way to secure your money or to make a transaction, but actually to ensure that money sent on public goods projects are actually reaching the potential to its most. And that's where you can hold accountable the owners of the organization, the owners of the project.
It sounds very dangerous. Like you're starting to hold governments accountable. Not sure if they like it.
Well, in blockchain, there is no governments or there is no governance or the governance is decentralized. And that's, I think, a very healthy trend of coming back to giving the power back to people or giving the knowledge back to people. In a sense, Web 2 was heavily dominated by large organizations, enterprises, or data monoliths, however you call them, owning your data, using it to their best advantage, best case is advertisement. But this old paradigm starts to shift from, okay, we are not, they don't own our data, we own our data. And from this point, as soon as I have my ownership, I can decide how I use it. Whatever it's like my data, my money, anything I can control, I can operate in my best intent and not the intent that someone else has on top of mine. And that's where I think there's a healthy...
How would it exactly work? Let's make this into like an example. Maybe like something like a concrete project, or just that people have a little bit of an understanding. Let's say, we are a group, we want to fund a park bench together for the community, or any other kind of example that you have in mind.
Yeah, totally. I think let's get a little bit an abstract example of there is a crowdsourcing platform which allows you to do it in a Web3 way. And you are, for example, collecting money on multiple different projects. And the funds you collect are essentially first live on blockchain, and they are not all transferred to you immediately. In order to receive the funds for your next goal, you essentially need to complete smaller chunks of projects that unlocks you every single time the fund for the next problem. So instead of just collecting money for, let's say, for everything good against all bad, you have to really define your small projects, which community can trace. And once you covered the first goal, you unlock the next portion of money for you to act further and further and further. And people can still send the money independently of your tracking of the activities. But if something fails on your side, if you're not capable to deliver towards, okay, we funded, for example, putting 100 trees, but you're only capable to deliver 10 of them, and we cannot trace where 90% of money went to. This could, instead of okay, we allocated way more money to that, you can immediately cut off the project and return all the money to the funders without even invoking and setting a court or just trusting the system on the first place that people are trustworthy. Instead of that, you can really regulate and control all the milestones within a project, and then make sure that the funds which you are really precious about, the funds which people send from all over the world to solve the problem which matters to them, they can actually have the power to also regulate and see and hold the people accountable who are using your funds to do something good around the world.
I see. Is there any particular project? I was just thinking, like, is the KlimaDAO and these kind of things? I like, like, what kind of projects are you thinking when when you have it in mind?
Yeah, that's a very good question. One particular project I'm super interested in, a little bit on the borderline between science and public goods, is there's a small DAO which focuses on research of plants, which essentially allows you to fund the project and buy NFTs of plants. But what happens in the background is all the sales of the NFTs which they produce goes to the research and to capturing new plants. And the beauty of that is that these plants are so rare that, for example, they travel to Amazonia forest and take a 3D scan of that, which could be used for the research for years going forward. It all is funded essentially from the NFT sales. And while the person receives an NFT, he also funds the research behind it. And the knowledge is still fully available to all researchers around the world, but you get the justification of your participation, which is the NFT, and then it could potentially also appreciate in price if you are interested in like selling it or reselling it afterwards. But the idea that from the public goods funding, you not only receive the appreciation of thinking that, oh, I did something well, I also receive something tangible that I can use, for example, in my Web3 space, in a virtual world, or even just resell it afterwards. This all creates a new unlock or new mechanism to make funding of public goods attractive. And not only attractive, but regenerative, because you can actually see how the funds are transferring from the organization towards research, towards going on trips and recording new plans. And this all is recorded on blockchain. So you can hold accountable people who are organizing such a DAO. And then you can see and traverse where your money went to and how they're used for the research purposes or for something else. And as soon as you see something malicious, you can immediately stop, and they will not be able to fund their projects further on.
No, that sounds like very interesting. I mean, I see a lot of potential for the charities or like, any other kind of organizations that engage in public goods for sure. Okay. So that's the trend for 2023. Any kind of, you're doing a lot of startup investing, like, anything interesting that you're seeing there? Or advising, investing,
Yeah.
or both?
For me personally, one of the angles which we haven't talked yet, but very exciting for me, is Web3 art. And particularly,
Right.
I'm excited about connection that NFT art or blockchain art enables actual artists to do something amazing. For example, now with the help of digital art and blockchain on top of that, you can actually record the whole experience of people going to an exhibition, and you can contain it into a new art piece, which will be later on a summary of all the people, all the experiences which are going through the certain activity. And this could be recreated or re-experienced and stored on the blockchain system as a whole. That really blows my mind from the perspective, oh, now I'm not only creating the art itself, I'm actually capturing the experience of people who saw my art on the real exhibition in the physical world. And then this whole experience of people interacting with the art, you can also make an interactive systems where you can adjust the art or affect somehow the art. If people, for example, press a button during the exhibition, or you can even record how people interact with it for other means. And this all interaction with an art could create a new art pieces, which then is a commonly created experience from an exhibition that can go and break this border between digital world and physical world. And that destruction of a barrier between, oh, there is blockchain things, there's maybe people in Web3 space which are very far away from me, and I don't know how to interact with that. That what really builds a bridge between the real physical world and the blockchain world that we all hear about, but not many of us actually get to experience. And this coming of the art of digital art towards physical spaces is something I'm just personally looking forward. I think once people understand how much potential is behind the technology and how much it enables developers, artists to use the resources to its most, it's just what really fascinates me. One other example could be that NFTs can also create a sustainable income source for artists over the large projection of time, because in NFT of an art piece, you can inbuilt that certain amount of money always come back to the original author, versus the real world right now is once the author sold his artwork, he never gets the income afterwards, because then it's like trading happening between interested parties, but artists never get a revenue back. And he is essentially living only on sustaining his new continuing art pieces to creation. But instead of that, you can build new healthy mechanisms for the art industry to make sure that author, the original creator of the content, is always rewarded for the lifetime of an art. And that's just paradigm shift in the art industry, which is happening just right now on our eyes.
Yes, no, it's just thrilling. With what kind of speed are we going? I think we are very much in the first innings of this overall. In any case, so let's see what's there to come. Konstantin, like if people are interested in following your work, or want to get in touch, apart from MacroMentors, what would be like the best way how to do that?
Totally. For me, the easy ways to reach me out is always Twitter and LinkedIn. Feel free to reach me out there. I'm more than approachable and happy to help with resources on Web3 if you're interested in a particular startup. I'm also used to be on many conferences on blockchain and Web3 space. So I post in my social media where I'm attending, where I'm speaking. So feel free to approach me in person. And just as a side note, feel free to also reach me on MacroMentors as the platform that I truly believe the more people should access to and have fun understanding what's happening inside the industries they're interested in but have no connection to.
Konstantin, this was absolutely beautiful. Thank you so much for your insights, and we're going to have you on again soon. Thank you. Cheers.
It was my pleasure as well. Thank you a lot for having me.